Well, it looks like we're having a little trouble with the intro this evening, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in there. My name is Britt Johnson. I'll be moderating tonight's chat with Stanford Medicine X. I see my funky hat here. This is kind of on a dare from one of our e-patient advisors, Chris Snyder, who will be moderating tweet chat for us. Have to shout out to my San Antonio Spurs who just won the championship, so pretty excited about that. So to jump right in here, I am an e-patient. I've had 2 forms of arthritis since I was 7 years old, so for 22 plus years now. I'll let you guys do the math there. And I also have chronic complex migraines that I deal with, and I'm one of the Medicine X e-patient advisors and helping to plan the conference this year. So don't forget to join in the conversation. On Twitter, you can use the hashtag MedX to tweet questions either to myself, to Chris Snyder, who is at IM_Spartacus, and also to the Stanford MedX account. So we'll be happy to have you guys all in there. Tonight we have a wide range of e-patients joining us. We have... Sorry, we're having some issues with the intro there. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. We're going to introduce Sarah Kucharski first. She is a rare disease patient. She's a founder of at FMD Chat and a MedX advisor as well. She enjoys writing, gardening, and long walks on the beach. So next, we also have Carrie, explained by many diagnoses, but defined by none. Carrie Mackay, sorry, lives with asthma and learning disability, ADHD, and a lengthy history of other medical chaos. She volunteers as a program coach with Special Olympics Manitoba, and in a variety of roles with the Asthma Society of Canada's National Asthma Patient Alliance, including serving as an executive committee member since 2011. We also have Sarah Hahn, who serves as a patient advisor in a University of Washington research project involving post-discharge surgical site infections, and is currently applying to medical school. Also, we have Marie Innes O'Connor, who is a social media consultant and writer and author of the award-winning blog Journeying Beyond Breast Cancer, which has reached more than 750,000 readers across the globe. She lives in Ireland, but at present is on a research sabbatical at the Flinders Centre for Innovation in Cancer in South Australia. So I'll let you guys figure out her accent. And then we have Karen Gonzalez, is a Mexican sports psychologist and educator living with post-traumatic stress disorder for the past 4 years, and is one of our returning e-patient delegates from last year's conference. And then we're going to go ahead and get started and just have everyone talk a little bit about their journey as a patient and why they decided to apply to Medicine X. So Sarah, I'll have you jump in here first and take that one.
We have 2 Sarahs tonight, so I know we have dueling Sarahs, which should be interesting. I'll go by Sarah K, which I tend to respond to because nobody can say my last name. So I originally got interested in MedX at this point like 3 years ago when it was actually a different conference being held at Stanford, and so saw a tweet come across my stream about this great conference that involved patients, and they actually even offered scholarships to make attending possible, because that's one of the things that patients have a lot of trouble with, is making actually going to these kinds of conferences a reality, because very often it's just out of our financial scope. And so went that year and have been involved ever since. It's taken on a really integral part of my life. It's this really meaningful conference to me because it's taught me so incredibly much and helped me grow as an advocate, but even better, it's given me the opportunity to help others grow as an advocate.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. So I'll jump over to the other Sarah. So Sarah H. Why did you? How did you get started as an e-patient, and why did you apply to the Medicine X program?
Well, I originally had a surgical site infection about 2 years ago, and it was just a complete disaster. I mean, it totally could have been avoided with better communication, and it just was not a good experience. But luckily, I got involved in a research project as their patient advisor. But I had really not heard of any sort of patient advisory work or patient advocacy work before this. And my mentor and the PI of the project, Heather Evans, she heard about MedX and she forwarded it to me and saying, this would be a good opportunity. So really, I just kind of looked into it, and I was just shocked and surprised that, everything, the e-patients and the message behind them, and it was just such a great opportunity. I couldn't wait to get involved, and luckily, you guys had me, so thank you.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you for your first year. So Marie, I'm going to jump over to you. How did you become an e-patient, and what made you decide to apply to Medicine X then?
Well, I was an e-patient long before I ever knew such a thing existed. In 2004, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was well, I'm not going to let anybody do the math, so I was quite young at the time. But what happened for me was, and I was really shocked, that a young woman would go through breast cancer treatment, but nobody would ever mention, none of the medical team would ever mention that it could affect fertility. So this was a very traumatic experience for me, and I was very angry and I was very upset after it. So I was pretty much a lone voice back home in Ireland, and I found a group that would work with me, and we produced a patient information leaflet about breast cancer and the effect on the fertility for a young woman and what the options are in Ireland. So a lot of the information that I had got was through the internet, but it came from the US. So I was interested in providing a resource in Ireland. So this was back in 2006. And again, I don't even think the term e-patient had come into popular play until about, was it 2000 or so? So I was an e-patient before I even knew I was an e-patient, and since then my voice has grown stronger. But what's been amazing for me is that I've learned so much from that global connection. And come to think of it, Twitter didn't come out till 2007 either. So I found it very difficult. It was only when Twitter came and when I could connect with more e-patients that I realized, gosh, you can really make a difference here. A lone voice can be added to other voices. And with regards to Medicine X, I still can't believe I'm going. I really, really can't. Last year I followed it on Twitter, and it was, that sense of excitement, and I just knew it was something really different. And last year I spoke at Doctors 2.0 in Paris, and I thought, okay, if I can do that, that's my first step. Maybe I could do Medicine X. So here I am, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, we're very lucky to have you this year on board. And I'll kind of echo that. You were an e-patient before you knew the term e-patient. Because that's how I often feel, having had this now for over 20 years before really the internet truly existed. And one of the very first things I ever did and my family ever did was use that to try to access medical journals to help better diagnose me. And so that is the original form of being an e-patient by necessity, I would say, just like you did, trying to find those answers, trying to find what you could. And the internet was so very helpful in that. And, and I would say the term e-patient even steps back a little further, even to, say, phone chains and so forth.
Yes.
I know that, in my family alone, when we were trying to figure out what was going on with me, my mom, we had heard of one other girl that had arthritis and had to have surgery on her feet, so it became, okay, call this person to get a hold of that person and find this person, and then they were able to get a hold of their parents and ask some questions. So that was really, the original e-patient is just really that grassroots effort of, empowerment and engaging and trying to solve the problem for yourself. So I'll echo that a bit. Karen, oh, go ahead. Sure.
Sorry, I just wanted to say just one thing. It just popped into my head. As I was speaking, it just struck me again what a lonely time that was when I was on my own, struggling and looking for the answers and particularly not finding anything in my own home country, and feeling like if I lived in the States, I'd probably have more support. Maybe not. So I want to echo again what you were saying about e-patient. It can be a very lonely time, so the important thing is to find your community and find your group and to draw on the strength and the experience of that group. And I know that all of us here want to be that person now who will help the people who are coming behind us in whatever condition that we're experiencing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. So I'll let Karen jump in here before I start talking too much again. So Karen, how did you start to become an e-patient? And this will be your second year at Medicine X. So you want to tell us why you decided to come back this year?
Yes, I'm very excited. It's here. Are you listening?
You're good. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes, it's very exciting because my second time, and I think my history it's very close like Mary, because I think I was an e-patient before I met the name of e-patient. And when I started with my symptoms like 4 years ago, I never find information here with doctors and treatments, and I have to find a lot of more in the internet. So one time I was looking for something to help me, and I find a tweet from MedX, and I said, what's this? It's talking about chronic pain and chronic illness, and I said, I need to know more about this. And I think it's very great because now I have a community, I have people to help me, and now I have the opportunity to help others in my country. I think it's very good to know that people can help you, and then if you learn, you can help others, even in the place that you are and with the profession that you have and anything. It's very cool to know that.
I am muted, so sorry. Thank you, Chris. So Carrie, I'm going to jump over to you since this is going to be your second year as well. You tell us a little bit about how you became an e-patient and why you wanted to come back this year.
Yeah, once again, like everyone else, I think I became an e-patient without knowing I was becoming an e-patient. Basically, I just started blogging kind of about living as a, older young person with asthma. I mean, I was diagnosed when I was just a bit before I turned 17, so I wasn't diagnosed as a child, which made my experience a little bit different from a lot of people who are either diagnosed with asthma when they're, 5, 6 years old, and a lot different from most of the adults I was finding living with asthma. So from there, I kind of tried to find other patients living with asthma, and given the fact that in Canada, 1 in 10 people have asthma, the fact that I was finding very few people who were trying to engage like myself was very frustrating to me. So at some point in 2011, I believe, I was kind of recruited by someone at the Asthma Society of Canada to join the National Asthma Patient Alliance Executive Committee, which is a group of patients from across the country who try to, engage other patients living with asthma. And I've been working with them ever since as a volunteer, and I've done some work with them on contract, briefly doing a physical activity resource. And I think that's kind of mostly what my thing is I try to encourage people, whatever chronic disease that they're living with, that they can be active to an extent, whatever works for them, and to not let your disease change who you are and define who you are, and make the best of what you've got.
Well, I would say all of you ladies are very inspiring, and I think it was kind of by accident we ended up with an entire group of ladies this evening, but way to represent. So yeah, very wonderful to hear all you guys. So I know that, this is a common question that comes up with e-patients and just travel in general, but I know, several of you have been to conferences, and if you haven't, let me know. But, Medicine X and any conference for that instance can be very taxing both emotionally and physically. You're absorbing a lot of information, a lot of excitement as well, and you're meeting other people maybe for the first time. And then there's the physical demands of, just really making it through the day while dealing with your disease. So I'm curious about how you guys are preparing for that, or if you have a plan. So Marie, I'm going to jump to you first since you've done a few other conferences as well. So do you have any advice there?
No, I'm actually here for advice this time. In relation to, I do find jet lag really, really, really difficult, and I'll be honest and say I'm concerned about the jet lag. So this year I'm going to download some kind of an app that might help me deal with it, that will get me in the zone in enough time. It's going to be a little bit tricky because I'll just be back from Australia, back home to Ireland, and then I'll be going from Ireland to the US in a matter of days. So I'm not really sure how that's going to work. I don't know where my head is going to be in terms of jet lag. So if anybody has any wonderful advice on how to tackle jet lag, I'd love to hear it. Apart from that, I suppose.
Right now.
Oh, great. Fantastic. That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Yeah, it is an issue. It is an issue. So I need to figure that out. That's what I need to work on before I go is how to handle the jet lag.
Wonderful. And do you have any advice to people as well about dealing with, you know, kind of the onslaught of information and everything you're absorbing at that time, especially since you've been at Doctors 2.0, since that's a similar experience?
Yeah, I actually just looked at the schedule, which somebody, I think Sarah K, although now I know how to pronounce your name, Sarah Kucharski. Oh, great. So I think Sarah tweeted out the link to the schedule, and I actually felt mixture of excitement when I saw it, but also, wow, this is some schedule when I saw it. So I think the best advice is to absolutely do not go to the conference without having looked at the schedule, without having planned what is most relevant to you and what you would like to do. And also my other advice, well, of course, my favorite part of a conference is always meeting people, especially meeting people that I've already connected with on Twitter. So I've already done that. And it's maybe another tip is to, if there's somebody that you particularly want to see, you can feel a little bit of pressure thinking, I wonder where I'm going to meet them, and kind of feel like you need to meet them at lunch. Where will I meet them? So perhaps reach out to them before the conference and say, I'd really like to meet you. Maybe we could do coffee on day one. This is my number, or this is my, or on day one. So that's just maybe another tip, is decide what you want to get from the conference, which talks you really want to see, plan your day in that way, and more than anything, plan the people that you want to connect with, and don't leave it all to the last minute where you're feeling under pressure.
No, I think that's excellent advice. And the one nice thing about Medicine X, just for all the patients coming, is we do facilitate time for them all to get together. And the first year I went, I found it really hilarious because we're all at this dinner and we're sitting at a table and kind of, you know, started with our pleasantries. Hi, I'm Britt. You know, hi, I'm Sarah. And everyone just kind of quietly munched on bread and drank their water. And then someone said, well, what's your Twitter handle? And I said, oh, you know, I'm at HurtBlogger. And someone, well, I'm, you know, Afternoon Napper, even though I already knew Sarah. And everyone, oh my gosh, you know, you're so-and-so.
That's who you are.
Funny moment where we didn't know each other based on our names or even our faces because of the avatars, but as soon as we threw that out there was, you know, this uproarious laughter and community that happened. And so you know, we try to facilitate that a little better, you know, now, and give people that opportunity. But that is good advice. You know, if there's mentors or other doctors or researchers or designers that you want to talk to, they're going to be there and they want to talk to you as well. So take the opportunity. So Sarah H., I'm going to come to you. So you have not been to a conference yet. Can I ask what either your expectations are, or even what your questions are? You know, maybe we can answer some of those for you.
Well, the great thing about Medicine X is that there's going to be a lot of other patients there, which is, you know, obviously going to be good for someone like me. And, you know, I'm actually just wondering how to really maximize your efficiency when it comes to being able to interact with all the people you want to interact with and meet, and all the different talks that you want to go to. I mean, I feel like if you really want to get to do everything you want, it'd be really exhausting. And so I guess that's kind of what I'm asking for those people who have experience with that.
Yeah, you know, I would agree with that, and I would say, and I'm still learning this at every conference, is to pace yourself, really. You know, we have the wellness room, and we're going to have more sort of amenities, if you want to call it that, for patients this year to make sure that they are taking care of themselves. So it's really kind of prioritizing what is most important to you, but also finding quiet time through the day. That's what I find is the most important, even if that means just walking out into the hall, grabbing a cup of tea and just sitting for 20 minutes, you know. And if you feel like you're missing something, the nice thing is there's the live broadcast, so you can bring your computer with you, or you can bring your phone with you, so that you're just kind of getting a moment to yourself, but you're not necessarily missing out on anything either. So Sarah Sarah Kucharski, I'll jump to you and let you kind of give some advice here.
Well, my advice actually probably isn't the best advice. It's more about how I tend to handle these things, which is to be completely, absolutely all in, which does a number on me after the fact. I do have the advantage of coming from the East Coast, so getting up early on the West Coast isn't nearly as bad. I've got that nice little 4-hour gap. And for me, there is so incredibly much going on that while I will look at the conference schedule and do make some plans about what's really important to me, I also want to leave myself the flexibility to suddenly have my interest change, to meet somebody that I didn't know about before and say, oh, well, you're interested in this thing? Well, I'm interested in you, so I'm going to go check out this thing with you and see what we can learn together. And sometimes that happens just as a result of a hallway conversation, or you end up sharing tweets. And using Twitter is really a thing that I would absolutely advocate, because it does help you make those connections, set up those meetings, make introductions, and schedule out your time a little bit. In reading the stream, you can find out that it's okay if you're in one session and it may not entirely be your cup of tea, and you see some tweets coming from another session and you want to switch rooms. That's completely okay. I mean, people know that there are changes and that you're not always going to know exactly what you're getting into, so being flexible is good. Otherwise, taking the quiet time to even just process, and I do love that there is always tea and coffee and drinks available so that you can go and sit and kind of just cool your jets a little bit and refresh yourself. But otherwise, I just sort of assume that I'll sleep when I leave, which I know goes against my name. I know, but it's okay.
So a little bit of mixed advice there. I like that. It's true. And if you ascribe to the spoon theory, I can say I'm already kind of mentally preparing my spoons for, what are we, 66 days out? Is that what the, trying to store up that mental and physical energy, kind of moving into that and preparing myself ahead of time. So Carrie, I'm going to jump to you. Since you've been there before, and I know you've done some other work, with other groups, what advice might you have to some of our newcomers? Because that's specifically coming up on Twitter right now.
I think definitely connect with people ahead of time is, important as much as you can. Kind of, follow people on Twitter or find people in the, MedX Facebook group or whatever, and connect with people and get to know, their stories, their interests, and, just find people you click with ahead of time, which is probably pretty much everyone, because I know I didn't have nearly enough time in 2012 to talk with all the people that I would have wanted to talk to. Just make sure that you make the most of the very limited time we all have to spend together, and, learn people's stories and make plans to connect with them, which was, already said, but it's definitely worth mentioning more than once.
I like that you bring up, can you guys hear the plane overhead? That you bring up making plans to hang out with people even too, because that's important, and I feel like I lost a little bit of that my first year. The day was kind of so taxing and everything that I think it's important to make those connections ahead of time so that you feel comfortable hanging out with those people even when maybe you are exhausted, because I think it's such valuable face-to-face time with those patients, at the end of the day, that the rewards can far outweigh, maybe the little bit of extra tired that you are the following day. So Karen, do you have any advice for any of the newcomers or anybody else attending medical conferences? Oh, can you unmute yourself there, Karen?
It's okay now?
There you go. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, we've got you muted again.
Yeah, it's okay. First, you have to get your program. It's very important to get this. And then I think you have to select your favorites on the program. And then you have to understand that you are in an incredible place, so you have to enjoy everything that you want to enjoy. But now in my second time, I have questions. I have redacted some questions that I need to do. That I need to do to some people, and then I think I will enjoy the wellness room and then the connection with other people. I think it's a very good place to meet others and to do friends and have a new group of people. So if you have your program, you can handle it, and you have to rest too. It's very important.
Yeah, I think the rest is the recurring theme here. We have a great question coming in from Tegan Hockman. She's one of our other e-patients this year. She's asking specifically, and this is MedX specific, if there's one conference hashtag or if there's subsections for when there's kind of break-off groups. And to answer that, we use the MedX hashtag throughout the conference. And that's not just for people there, but it's also for people on the live stream as well that might be watching it, because then they're able to join in the conversation and see everything that's going on. If there is something a little more specific, you could add more hashtags to that, but we do ask that everybody uses that main conference hashtag so that we can even go back through and see the conversations, because I found that if there was a session that I wasn't able to go to, later on in the day I'd go back through the tweet stream and check it out during that time and take a look at who was there. So that kind of clears that one up. So my next question for everyone, and I'll jump over to you, Sarah H. What are you most looking forward to at the conference, especially since this will be your first year?
Let me unmute. Okay. I don't really know what to expect, honestly, because it is my first conference, and I do think this is a rather unique conference, but I'm really, really looking forward to interacting with all the e-patients and also the providers and researchers that have this sort of patient-centered mindset, because, strangely, that's not as prevalent as I would have expected. And so it's just kind of really immersing myself in that kind of culture, and I don't know, it'll be very exciting.
Sorry, I'm forgetting to unmute myself here too. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the e-patients, and that was the same for me my first year, was the most exciting part of it. Just getting to meet some of these people that you've been talking to for, a few months or even a couple years online. It's really interesting. And we do have one comment coming in from at Wired Nerves. She's going to be attending the conference this year, and she says she's most excited to be the walk-in talks with Zoe Chu. So I would say everybody coming, don't forget to miss your time, or don't miss your time, to hang out with Zoe Chu. She's the great mascot of MedX, and everybody needs a little therapy time with Zoe Chu. So Marie, I'll jump over to you and ask what you're most looking forward to coming over to the States, coming to California, and kind of joining in our conference and seeing what it's about.
Yes, gosh, I'm getting really excited now. I've never been to California, so that's going to be really thrilling for me. I'm looking forward, like everybody else, meeting face to face. The other thing that, and I guess what I want to learn, maybe that's a question that's coming up later. I might be anticipating a question you're going to ask later, but I'm interested as well, though, I tend to go to a lot of breast cancer conferences, so it's really interesting. I'm getting more and more interested in the universality of our experience, so I'm going to be interested to learn from people the common ground that we have. And that's really important to me, and it's become something, a focus that's become more important to me in the last year or so. And the other thing that I'm hoping that I can learn is how I can, nobody's going to be listening in Ireland at the moment, because I'm just looking, it is 2 a.m. in the morning there, probably nobody's listening in. But I'm really interested to know how I can get more of an e-patient movement in Ireland, because I'm kind of the only one. I might be wrong about that. I'm the most vocal, maybe. Maybe there's more and they're just not speaking up as much as I am. So I'm hoping to learn how to create a grassroots movement. I think I've probably not answered your question. I've probably jumped ahead to another question there. So yes, I'm looking forward to California. I'm very much looking forward to meeting people face to face.
No, I think you bring up a really good point about breaking down those silos that we kind of inadvertently created within social media, healthcare social media, and just in general, because when we first search for information, we go very specific, with our diseases, and for good reason, to find that direct one-to-one connection and to find what we immediately need as e-patients, the reason that we, found ourselves online in the first place. But, I think as we start kind of talking to other people in different disease communities, we realize, hey, we've got a lot of the same problems, and wait, if we put these two communities together, we can be that much more effective, and put these two together, and so on, you know. And I think that's really what we're finding with the e-patient movement in general, and with the Medicine X e-patient scholars as well. So, Carrie, I'll let you jump in here. I think I jumped on the Zoe bandwagon a little early, so.
I got super excited when I saw Walk and Talks with Zoe in the program earlier, so that's definitely a piece of excitement for me for sure. And, you know, like everyone said, meeting e-patients is definitely among the highlights, of course. And I'm really looking forward to a lot of the sessions, and hopefully they don't, like, you know, run all at the same time, because I want to go to so many of them. And I kind of had to stop looking at the program because they were very exciting to me. Yeah, and I think just, you know, there's a lot of, you know, different stuff to look forward to, and I can't even begin to summarize it, or I'll be here all day.
Oh, it's wonderful. And, oh, having muting troubles again. Karen, I'll jump to you. So since it's your second year, you know, what are you most looking forward to, or what do you hope to gain maybe that you weren't able to get the first year?
Well, this time I want to know more about mental health and physical health too. I think in MedX we have a lot of opportunities to know more about that and technology, because it's very interesting to know how you can help others and your own health with technology, and looking for psychology and physical activity. It's very interesting. I think this time I will be more, I will be closer with that topics and the speakers in the topics.
Great. So, Sarah K., I'm going to come to you, saving you for last, since you've been there the most times out of everybody. So, what are you looking forward to this year that maybe, you know, you haven't done in previous years, or are there specific sessions that you saw so far that you're looking forward to, or the 6 times that Zoe Chu will be making an official appearance?
So, my comment is actually a little bit more of a generalist one, that one of the things that I look forward to, I mean, aside from getting to be together with e-patients, which is a really rare opportunity, one of the other rare opportunities is actually getting to have some quality time with the doctors and the researchers and the tech developers and all these people who are there, who really earnestly have an interest in connecting with patients. You know, we talk a lot about patient engagement these days, and there are a lot of people or organizations really who are really paying lip service to patient engagement. There's doing to patients, and then there's doing with patients. And those providers and researchers and tech developers who are attending MedX, those are the ones that I find have an interest in actually collaborating and making the patient voice a key component of what they're doing. That really means a whole lot to me, because it's a certain level of validation that what we're doing is not just for, you know, our friends, our family, our community, you know, the e-patient community, that it's for healthcare at large. And that really, this is about making a difference and working together in that participatory medicine model that is a little bit of hacking the system. It's a little bit about, like, okay, what I need doesn't exist, so I'm going to create it. But that hacking the system doesn't have to be an antagonistic relationship, that it can be this working together. And so all of those people who are there who are not patients, their level of commitment to this overall movement is something that I just think that we cannot appreciate enough, and I wish was found in more conferences, but that I'm glad to find at MedX, because it is what makes it so unique.
Well, that kind of ties into my next question here. So, Sarah, I'll let you continue on that then. You know, how do you plan to take what you learn from the conference, out into the world and afterwards, or maybe give us an example of something that, at previous conferences you were able to kind of build on after the conference. And, hopefully then other people can hope to do the same thing at other conferences as well, not just Medicine X. So.
One of the things, I say that a lot, one of the many things, for me, the very first year was really kind of overwhelming because it is this onslaught of information. And you may feel, wow, I'm really engaged and I'm doing all these things and I'm involved in my community, and then you get to this much, much larger fishbowl and suddenly what you're doing seems entirely less than awesome because there are all these people who are doing exceedingly more awesome things, but those people are interested in helping. They're interested in enabling you to go to the next level. And for me, like, I never would have thought that I would have gone on to found my own disease organization and turn that into a nonprofit, and that some of the projects that I'm doing are working with people that I met at MedX and are directly serving my community. And so it's not necessarily that you're going to go in with a plan and find somebody to specifically fit this plan. And maybe you are, but it's about being presented with this realm of possibilities and encountering things that you never even knew about, and taking that and chewing on that and seeing, okay, how can I take this inspiration, this process, and maybe make it work for me, make it into something that I can use. And you don't have to walk away on Sunday or Friday or whenever you go. You don't have to walk away absolutely knowing what you're going to do, but you are going to walk away knowing that you've met people who are going to help you do it.
There we go. Still having problems with my muting, but yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point, is that, after my first 2 years, if anything else, I just felt incredibly energized. And mentally, maybe not physically because I was so tired and I had done everything and not rested enough, not taken that advice well, but mentally, all cylinders were firing after that point. The ideas that you come away with and the relationships that you gain and are able to build on really just kind of help propel you for the rest of the year. I kind of joke that Medicine X is my first quarter of the year now. That's really my starting point in planning out what I do for the rest of the year. And, it's come to mean that much for me as as an e-patient, because of the relationships I was able to build there with other patients, with other doctors, with researchers, and I've been able to continue those relationships for several years now. Carrie, I'm going to jump over to you. How do you plan on engaging your respective communities before, during, and after the conference? So to kind of tailspin on that a little bit. Did Carrie freeze on us? Oh, Carrie, are you frozen? I think we've got you back now. Can you unmute?
I went.
Yeah. I think we're going to jump to somebody else really quick. Let's see. So, Karen, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you're planning to engage your communities before, after, and during the conference?
Yes, now I have a group of students at the university, and they are learning how to do this. And I think now at Stanford, I can understand better things and better forms to connect with communities in this time, in difference that the past year. And I think my patients and my students can be helped about my presentation at MedX. I think it's the way that I will do that.
So are you teaching them more about patient engagement and more about social media? How are they responding to using social media for something so different?
it's very rare for them. Here, it's not very common to use Twitter or to use Google Hangouts. It's very rare for them. And when I started with that, they was like, what? What's talking about my teacher? She's very crazy, and my class, it's not to be like this. But I think it will be very good because we'll start a program about physical education, and I think this is a very good platform to understand and to educate others. So I think Stanford MedX this year will help me a lot.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, and I hope that they can learn from that. Just to jump in, more advice about attending, any conferences. We've got a comment here from @Pam Riesler. She says, make sure you bring lots of business cards to MedX. Have some inexpensively printed if you don't ordinarily have them. She found them really helpful, and I would say the same thing. And even having space either on the back or on the front to be able to write notes, what you talked to this person about, how you met them, the discussion you had, so that you can follow up with those people afterwards. So Carrie, we're going to try coming back to you. How are you looking to engage your community before, during, and after the conference?
I think for me, because the asthma community is really nothing to speak of, basically it's just that I'm going to be trying to share the fact that I'm going to MedX and promote the, the global access stuff that goes on so that people who aren't at the conference can engage. So I think that's basically what I'll be doing before. Of course, during, it's like, the big flurry of tweets all the time, and there's not really, I think, a lot you can do while you're at the conference other than, be connecting with people and massively, just tweeting everything. And then afterwards, of course, it would be applying the new things that I've learned while at Medicine X to, basically make the e-patient community, wherever I kind of find myself, a better place and more connected, and, that kind of stuff, basically taking the theory or the knowledge and putting it into action in my own life.
Yeah, and that's a very good way of putting it, because I think we're all very excited about what we're going there to learn, but we kind of have no clue what's going to happen, and that's the really thrilling part about it. Because, we're trying to think forward to, what does the next year look like afterwards? What does 2014, 2015 look like? And that's really hard to answer right now, because the presentations every year are so new, so unique, and that information, it's as fresh as it gets. So being able to share that with our respective communities is really helpful, so that they know what is at the forefront and what is coming up, so that we can all kind of progress the movement together. So Marie, I'll jump to you. So how do you plan on engaging before, during, after the conference? Have you thought about that, or do you have kind of a game plan there?
I don't. I'm going to use Sarah's wonderful phrase, realm of possibility. I absolutely love that phrase, Sarah. Really beautiful. So I'm going to open myself to the realm of possibility. I guess what I was saying earlier about, I really am interested to learn more, and hopefully I will learn more about how to build grassroots level back home in Ireland. That's probably my game plan. That's probably most what I'm interested in. I mean, as regards to Twitter, I'm never off Twitter. Sometimes I think I really I overdo it a bit. So I'm never off Twitter, so I'll be on Twitter. I have several blogs. I also write for some online healthcare publications, so I intend to blast them with different versions of, depending on which publication I'm going to write for. So I'm going to blast them with e-patient accounts, and so that's my game plan for now, but I'm holding that realm of possibility phrase very much in my head at the moment. So thanks, Sarah.
Wonderful. Yeah, I say Twitter is the big one kind of for all of us, and that's where I think the MedX community is really strong, is on Twitter too, just because it breaks down all of those barriers that we've talked about. It's just one big room of conversation at that point. So Sarah H., I'm going to come to you next. Since this is your first Medicine X and your first conference, have you thought about, kind of preparing, or how you want to share information with your community when you get back? Or are you just going to kind of wait and see?
Well, I mean, I guess a little bit of both. Mostly I've been talking to a lot of the research groups and the patient advisory groups that I've been with about MedX, and telling them about what that is and how they can get involved with Twitter and these MedX Live videos. And yeah, I guess, but a lot of it is just kind of wait and see. I mean, I'm still not as proficient with Twitter as I would like to be. So looking at all this I'm learning a lot. And yeah, I'm sorry. I feel like a lot of it is just kind of I'm waiting to experience it all because I really don't know what it's gonna be like, and it seems like it's gonna be really exciting.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have your perspective as a newbie too. So, Sarah Kay, I'm going to jump over to you. So I know that you've been all over social media, maybe too much, like myself and like Marie said. So, you know, do you have a specific plan this year as far as engaging people or the specific types of things you want to share with the community?
One of our new focuses this year is we've always kind of had it in the background, but we're really pushing to the front the mental health discussion this year. And it's something that I myself am even putting myself a little bit more out there than perhaps I have been previously in talking about struggles with depression and chronic illness. Interestingly enough, I don't know if all of you guys know about the bloggess. She was someone who I started reading early on. She's this great blogger who's very witty, very funny, and somewhat caustic, and very honest. And for her sharing about her struggles was something that motivated me to write a post years ago that she was kind enough to retweet. And that was a really huge moment for me in terms of making these kinds of conversations okay. And so one of the things that I really want to do is help get that discussion about mental health out there, that this is not taboo, that this is something that really everyone either does or should in some aspect deal with, either directly or through a loved one or friend. And how can we make this a more normal part of the conversation? How can we reach out and let others know that talking about it is okay, and talking about it is what helps and lets other people know that it's okay for them to talk about it too. So that'll definitely be one of my focuses. Otherwise, you know, I'm always beating the rare disease drum, always trying to get more attention for those of us who are in the community, and particularly those of us who are in the adult population, because the adult population of rare disease patients is only 25% of that community, and it makes it a little bit harder for us to get the same kind of level of voice. It makes us a sort of minority within a minority. And so what can we do to amplify those voices as well?
I think that's a really great point, and it's tough to talk about that. You know, I find it's tough on my own, so I commend you for taking that on this year, and personally, but you know, as a conference, we heard a lot that that's a focus that people wanted to hear, so we're trying to bring that into the conversation. I'm even seeing it, you know, on Twitter much more now, that people are looking to really discuss that this year. So one comment we had from @CarlyRM, who is another one of our e-patients this year, she just asked that we encourage all the attendees to really interact with patients, you know, and you know, I would say the same for patients as well, because I think even though, you know, we're used to this Twitter world where, you know, we can communicate and jump in, when we get in a room, you know, it changes a little bit, you know, immediately. So, you know, I think it's important for everybody in the room to try to reach out to other people that they may not know. You know, if the e-patients are sitting together, you know, jump into another conversation at another table, and see what they're talking about, or, you know, ask who they are and what they're working on. And the really interesting thing is, as e-patients there, we're going to have the same thing happen to us. You know, I was really shocked my first year after speaking, and then I had people come up to me saying they wanted to talk to me, and I said, really? You know, you know, and it's interesting to kind of realize that, yes, I'm a patient, but my voice is just as important there. So, you know, I would encourage everybody at the conference to jump into conversations there, meet people you may not. You know, you start by joking about, you know, donuts and bagels in the morning, and then suddenly you're talking patient-centered design, you know, and healthcare. So, you know, just jump in there however you can. Carrie, I'd like to come to you next. Do you have any advice for new people coming in, or even also just the attendees in general, about how to tweet during a conference like this? Because you kind of mentioned earlier it can be really kind of insane. So what advice do you have for all of our attendees, not just the e-patients?
Definitely use something like, I use TweetDeck personally. You know, I don't know how I would do tweeting a conference without something like TweetDeck, so that would be my #1 suggestion. Otherwise, in my world, it probably really helps that I have ADHD because I can do 17 things at once, but I don't know how that really helps, like, you know, people who don't have ADHD.
Yeah, so let's see. I'll ask Karen. I know you had some difficulties in tweeting because you were actually tweeting both in English and Spanish. So how was that for you, and what advice do you maybe have for some of our bilingual folks out there?
Well, it was very fun. It was very fun because I have to hear in English and then to write in Spanish. But it's better for me because I think the people here in Mexico will always understand my phrases if they are in Spanish, not in English. So I need to understand first and then to write. This is a secret for me. I can't tweet a lot, but I think I have the main ideas and then tweet them, and then I have to blog them.
No, I think that's a good point about the main ideas. You know, it can seem overwhelming, you know, the tweet stream when there's so many people tweeting on it. So just trying to, what's important to you as far as what you're putting out there. If you've heard something that's really powerful to you, put that out there. Or the main ideas, like you're saying, you know, boil it down to something that your followers can understand as well. And then, you know, that'll inevitably start a conversation with somebody else in the room that you may not have met yet. So Marie, I want to jump over to you next. We have a question here from Rachel Crooks, who is one of our fellow e-patients. She says that, let me see, she says she wants to talk more about chronic illness and the mental health aspect, but it's a difficult subject to broach. She says she doesn't know where to start. Do you have any suggestions on kind of opening up those difficult conversations in person?
We must be on the same wavelength, because I was just replying to her on Twitter there, and I was just going to say, I'll reply to that question if I get an opportunity. I am so glad to hear Sarah say that. It's so important. I know when I've been blogging since 2009, and when I started my blog, I started it anonymously because I was working in an area, I was working in public relations in an area where image was everything, and I didn't want people to know about my struggles with depression and my struggles with particularly infertility as well, and I felt very private about that. But gradually I thought, you know, if we don't start having these conversations, if we don't own up to this, we'll never change anything. So it was a big leap for me to change my blog to who I was and to own up to experiencing depression, and I've had some really tough times with that, and I had a very tough time around bereavement when my mum died of brain cancer 2 years ago, and I've had quite a few miscarriages, so I started to write about that. So my advice to Rachel, I don't know, Rachel, if you have a blog, the best way to start is actually to start on a blog and to write something about as much of your personal experience as you can. I know that can be a little bit difficult. I just feel like if we don't start telling our stories, and the only way we will ever break the stigma is if we're all courageous enough to own up to the stories that we have, and that we can. I love. There's a quote that I always say that I use a lot, and it's about friendship. And friendship is born in that moment when you meet somebody and you say, "You too, I thought I was the only one." So I kind of keep that in mind when I'm writing. Sometimes I think, am I revealing too much on my blog? Will people ever employ me again? Because I work as a social media consultant if I own up to depression. But it actually doesn't stop me doing my job. I can still do a really good job. And this is part of who I am. And in fact, it probably makes me more creative. So, so I think that's my message then, is own up to our stories and be courageous and tell those stories. And I'm so glad that Rachel brought up that, and maybe somebody else has some ideas around how to start that conversation. So that's my 2 cents worth.
That's excellent advice. I'm not going to even add to it. That was perfect. So Sarah Kay, I'm going to come to you. I know a lot of people ask about, you know, what do I wear to these things? You know, what do I bring? So I'll let you jump in here a little bit about some advice there. So.
it's important to remember that most of all, we'll be in California. And we've all seen those commercials of California of like going to board meetings and they're carrying their surfboards and like all that kind of stuff. I've found that to actually be kind of true in a great way. So you don't have to wear your three-piece suit and your really pinchy high heels and carry your super snazzy briefcase. Come as you are. You know, be comfortable. Be professional, but be comfortable. But don't think that you're going to be like the only guy there wearing a t-shirt and a blazer, or the only girl there wearing a t-shirt and a blazer. It's really a friendly environment. It's a welcoming environment. Do wear comfortable shoes. Be able to move so that if you want to flop down in one of the many comfortable chairs that we offer, or perhaps in one of the less comfortable chairs, you will still be fine. You know, bring the technology that you know that you will use, whether that's a keyboard for your iPad or just your phone, or maybe you don't have a smartphone, and that's completely okay too. I did not have one the first year I went, and we will not throw you out. It's really okay. So just be yourself. You know that, again, this is not an adversarial kind of place, and be willing to put yourself out there. It's that kind of thing that you get out what you put in. That, you know, absolutely, if you want to sit in the back and not talk to anybody, you can do that. Your experience will not be as rich, but just, yeah, give of yourself. One of the blog posts that I wrote was about this kind of living and giving wholeheartedly, and so just be present and it'll be good.
Yeah, and I like what you said there too, and my advice for dressing that I've kind of learned at these things is wear what is comfortable in you, but also makes you feel confident. So for me, that's not necessarily wearing that three-piece suit or something. You know, for me, feeling confident is feeling a little more like myself. So that means dressing down a little bit, honestly, and feeling like I do on a day-to-day basis. So, you know, there will be AC in there, and there will be things attended to. One exciting thing that I want to mention is today we just launched the Team Next Challenge that all the e-patients are participating in, as well as the med student leaders. So that's something new this year, where the wellness room is going to be designed by the e-patients this year. And then we'll also have the front of the house that will be designed by the e-patients, as well as a roving medical bag. So the idea here is that we're trying to foresee some of these you know, kind of comfort issues, as well as just medical issues that the e-patients may have, but also making it a welcoming and relaxing and restorative environment for all of the attendees there, not just the e-patients. So do look for that. So the e-patients and med student leaders are going to be hard at work for the next couple weeks, pulling that all together and kind of learning design thinking and patient-centered thinking. So that's one really exciting thing we have coming up. So the conference is only 10 weeks away, and don't forget to register if you haven't already, and check out the new schedule that came out today. That's going to tell you everything that's going on. So I really appreciate all you ladies joining us tonight and giving your wonderful input and advice. I really hope it was helpful to everyone. So we are signing off until after the conference for the rest of the year. So I appreciate the honor of signing everyone out. We will see you at Medicine X this September, and then we'll be looking forward to 2014, 2015. So thank you so much, everyone. Stay tuned for some credits.